Throughout all of Part A of this season, we've had a huge amount of build-up readying us for this season finale. However, somewhat to our disappointment, it seems there's still a lot more to be said, so much of the payoff that we would like to have had right now in this episode we'll have to wait for in Part B. And sadly again, all we have of that season is this one promo, so let's check it out. So Bjorn, a character we have followed this entire season, the first son of Ragnar, an immensely big character in history, and a favourite on the show from the very beginning, is now dead. However, unlike Lagertha who died this season, we haven't gotten a funeral, a corpse, farewell speeches, a beautiful montage, and a scene to bring his story to an end. Like we've seen Vikings do many times before, the fight scene was very surreal. We cut in and out of illusionary scenes with symbolizing imagery and dialogue that wasn't truly taking place. Throughout the battle scene, they undermined our ability to interpret what was going on. They made us question who was winning, who was suffering, who was going to die. And so when out of nowhere Ivar stabs Bjorn, we see him fall back and die before our eyes. It comes out of nowhere and we just can't believe it. So with that all in our minds, and we go from the shot of Bjorn on the beach to the sword, and then they show us this in the promo.
I told you, Ivar, you can't kill him. It's impossible.
They show us a single rider at the head of the reassembled Vikings forces holding Bjorn's sword that we saw on the beach, with dialogue directly from Viksid saying, Ivar, I told you can't kill him, and a shot of Ivar himself seemingly in reaction to the rider saying it's impossible. So does this mean that Bjorn is saved, he is not dead, he has lived this battle, that what we saw was not real? And to tell you the truth, I don't know, but I have a feeling that sadly that's not the case at all. In truth, it doesn't seem like Bjorn really has a place in the story. Historically, he should be the king of Sweden, but Sweden isn't a concept we've introduced in this story. We've seen him make bad decision after bad decision as king, and a lover as well, let's be honest. And from those decisions, everything was slowly stripped away from him, from his kingdom to his mother. He became a character who was full of hate in every scene we saw him. He was always angry and mad and yelling and irritable, and then finally it all came to an end. So if it is the case that Bjorn did die in that last episode, then what does these shots mean? Now Bjorn was stabbed and killed on the beach. He had his sword grasped in his hand and laid out towards us, the camera. And then we saw the life in Bjorn go out. Now one character who was on dire straits, I can tell you that, but that we didn't really see die was Harold. He was still struggling in those very last moments and we never saw him again. With the crown taken by Eric, the Roos won't know he's anyone important. They made us see him wriggling on the ground or maybe think he's dead and pass over him. And knowing Harold is the type of character he is, where he wants what Bjorn has very much, and what we heard of him from the past where he said he won't truly be king until Bjorn is killed, so I think we could very much get a scenario where Harold picks up the mantle of Bjorn's sword and truly becomes king in proper. So the shot we get here of the shaky arm raising the sword is not Bjorn, but rather a very hurt and still injured Harold barely struggling to lift the blade. Perhaps the dialogue from Ivar and Viksid aren't really in the context of the scenario, or maybe they actually mistake the rider from a distance to be Bjorn, for a bit at least. Now, however, everything I've just said could be totally wrong. We only got a small amount of footage, a few out of context scenes and dialogue, so I definitely want to hear what you guys think about Bjorn's death and these shots and whether I'm right or not. So if you're like me and you were really excited to see Uber move out of Kattegat and expand his own story, then it looks like we're going to very much enjoy this part B. Clearly somehow Uber and the wanderer Athelstan managed to discover this new land he saw so long ago. However, before they set off on their journey, it seems like some very violent things are going to happen again in Iceland. However, unlike before, it seems like more than just one family fighting another. So we got a shot of Uber fighting and cutting down what seems like a more Scandinavian looking person, so it means the shot's more likely in Iceland and not in his travels. And again another shot of Saltos Fatlos cutting down another warrior. Now I can't quite tell because it's not very visible in this shot, but it does seem like there's a carcass of what could be a whale here. If that is the case, it could be a fight over this food source or the spoils of this capture, or just a nice set design for a fight, but just as likely I could be very blind here and it's just a rock, and maybe those violent looks we saw from Flatnose about Uber is finally resulting in some kind of fight. And then at the end we see this shot of Uber yelling, "Have you lost your mind?" Now the interesting thing about this scene is that Uber has his hair cut a very different way. He doesn't have the long hair behind him anymore. So that shot and dialogue is from a very different point in the story than this fight.
The golden age of the Vikings is over.
Damn, this looks cool. I cannot wait to see Uber explore North America. Clashing with this new culture out of nowhere in this new land is going to spark the best parts of Uber and his curiosity to be able to learn and interact with these new people. Vikings began as a story about foreign invaders arriving in new land out of nowhere and the huge chain of consequences that happened from that. Some of the most powerful moments and scenes we had in those first seasons of Vikings was those initial meetings between these foreign powers. It reminds me so much of Ragnar running into random groups of the English, having to try and interact with them and learn each other's cultures and understanding whether they're a threat or not. And so clearly we're going to get to explore all of that in Uber's storyline, which is going to be so much fun. Ironically, over the top of these images of these new, exciting, very Viking moments, we have that dialogue of Gunhild saying the golden age of the Vikings is over. So clearly there's going to be a sharp contrast between the exciting new adventures of Uber and the fall of Norway and the struggles they face with their foreign enemy.
Comes to an end. Come with me, Congo King Alfred. We shall never surrender.
And now we come to the storyline that I've been missing so much this part A that I hope part B is full of. My boy Alfred and England. I've talked on and on about how part B needs to be jam-packed of this amazing conflict between Ivar and Alfred, true equals in strategy and conflict, but yet polar opposites in values and culture. Just the perfect enemies to face off and create history that really brings the show to an end with a bang. We will see this religious conflict that we've had throughout the entire series brought to light yet again as Alfred defends England as a Christian nation and Ivar tries to realize his interpretation of Ragnar's spirituality. Sadly, that's all we've got for the footage for part B, but I'm already seeing so many storylines I can't wait to watch, plenty of interesting dynamics and fascinating worlds to explore, with tons of character growth still to happen. So if you guys have any thoughts on the storylines that could be happening in part B, as well as your thoughts on the finale, leave them in the comment section below. I would love to read through them and hear what you think. And if you're as big of a Vikings fan as myself, I implore you to join the community and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and Skål.